Today, we're going to dig into a really fundamental shift in how we look at location data. We're talking about moving beyond just a simple ping on a map to really understanding what our movement says about how we act in the real world. So let me just ask you this straight up. When you look at location data, are you really getting the full picture? I mean, the whole story? Or are you just seeing a single snapshot in time that might even be, well, misleading? It's a huge distinction, and it's exactly what we're going to unpack right now. All right, so first things first, let's get right into the core problem. To really get the solution, we've got to understand how the industry usually handles location data. Because honestly, the way it's normally done has some pretty serious flaws baked right in. Okay, look at this. This slide just nails the issue perfectly. Over on the left, you've got a moment. That's a single visit, right? And it forces you to make an assumption. But on the right, you have a story. That's a pattern, something that happens over and over. And that gives you actual evidence. The big problem? Most platforms are totally stuck on the left side of this screen. And they're stuck there because the whole industry is basically built on something called inferred signals. Sounds kind of fancy, right? But all it really means is making an educated guess. It's a guess based on super limited information. It's an inference, it's not a fact. And here's that flawed logic in action. So, step 1, a phone enters some area you've drawn on a map, a geofence. Step 2, a platform immediately assumes why it's there. Oh, they must be a shopper. And then step 3, boom, an ad gets fired off based entirely on that single assumption. Sure, it's simple, but it's also built on incredibly shaky ground. So here's the absolute key takeaway. Seeing a device show up one time is not some deep insight into human behavior. It's not. It's just a moment. A single blip in time, totally isolated and completely without any context. Okay, so if that old way of doing things is broken, what's the alternative? Let's jump into our next section and see how we can build from looking at these static moments to actually analyzing dynamic movement. This right here, this is the big shift. Instead of obsessing over single, one-off events, the entire focus changes. It's now about analyzing anonymized data trails over long periods of time. It's not about where a device was seen once, but about the journey it takes again and again and again. And you know what's cool? When you zoom out and start observing millions of these journeys, these incredible patterns just start to emerge. You begin to see the actual rhythm of a population. You can spot the areas where people likely live, where they cluster for work, their favorite shopping destinations, and even their go-to social spots. You can even see how often they come back, which helps build a way richer, much more accurate picture of what's really going on. Now look, I've got to be crystal clear on this point because it is so important. This is all about understanding large-scale aggregated trends. We're talking about population-level modeling to see how groups of people move through the world, not about identifying or tracking any single person. Privacy is paramount. So you might be wondering, how on earth is this even possible? I mean, processing billions and billions of data points requires some serious horsepower. And that brings us to the technology that actually makes all of this work. It's called the super index. The best way to think about it is like a massive, highly specialized engine that was custom built for one job and one job only, to take in billions of anonymous data points about journeys, clean them all up, and then organize everything so that this kind of large-scale analysis is even possible in the first place. And this really gets to the heart of it. This kind of technology, it isn't just another tool for serving ads a little better. No way. It represents a totally different category of technology. This is movement intelligence. It's about generating a deep, strategic understanding from how populations actually move. Okay, so we've laid out the problem and we've talked about the new approach, but how does this really stack up against everyone else in the industry? Let's dive into a direct comparison. Before I show you the next slide, I want you to hold this one thought in your head. Lots of platforms use location. That's common. But truly understanding movement, that is incredibly rare. That's the lens you should use to look at what's coming next. Okay, now check out this table. You'll see that, yeah, some other platforms might observe movement in a limited way, or maybe they'll model it. But just look at the columns where Mapcite stands completely alone. Maps millions of journeys? Only one yes there. Builds persistent personas based on real movement? Again, just one. And how about this one? Campaign independent insights, meaning the intelligence is always on, it's not tied to a single ad campaign. It's a clean sweep. This just perfectly visualizes the massive gap between a simple location tool and a true movement intelligence platform. So, we've covered the what and the how. Let's wrap this up by focusing on what's really the most important question of all. Why does any of this actually matter in the real world? What's the bottom line? This quote right here, it just sums up everything perfectly. Think about it. Is location just a trigger, a simple signal to fire off an ad? Or is movement a source of truth, real, hard evidence of consistent behavior? You see, the first one is all about guessing. The second one is all about knowing. And that difference between guessing and knowing becomes absolutely critical when the stakes get really high. We are not just talking about ad clicks here. We're talking about huge decisions, things like urban planning, public policy, billion-dollar investment strategies, and even a company's social license to operate. For those kinds of decisions, you simply cannot afford to be wrong. So we're going to end right back where we started, with a question for you to really think about. When it's time to make your most important decisions, the ones that really, truly count, are they being built on a simple guess, on a fleeting moment in time? Or are they founded on solid, verifiable evidence of real-world behavior? The answer to that question could literally change everything.